No crowds, but two very interesting games of rugby league. Let's start with the grudge match and Brisbane getting over the top of South Sydney.
Yeah, it was a great game, Tim. As you mentioned, no crowds, but it didn't affect the quality of the game, that's for sure. Brisbane, well, Seabold was 4-0 against his arch rival there, Wayne Bennett, so he wanted to get the victory. And it was the Broncos that really got out to a fast start. They were sensational to start the game in the first 10 or 15 minutes, completely dominating possession. Payne Haas and Footy were on a roll, but then they got an injury to their half and they struggled after that. The Broncos, a bit of a low point for them. They had to change a few key positions, and Souths really found some momentum and brought themselves back into the game. But really, it was a dominant performance by Brisbane. I think they were the better team and they deserved to win.
Nick, particularly that wide shot looks eerie in the AFL, but it's the new world, isn't it, that we're living in. We're going to have the Golden Slipper today at Rose Hill with no crowds, but Collingwood, they were very strong.
Absolutely. We're off and running, and this time last week we didn't know if we would get any football at all. So we're 2 games into a shortened season as it looks at this stage. It does. It looks eerie, and I think that's probably the best word to summarise what we've seen over the first 2 nights of the AFL season. It doesn't feel right, it doesn't look right, but the beauty is in this crazy world and everything that's going on, there's some normality, and that is that we get to see a little bit of football. I think the players are adjusting to it. I think the coaches and everybody that's fortunate enough to be at the ground are adjusting to it. I think us sitting now on the couch watching the games over the last 2 nights are still adjusting to it. I'm thrilled that footy is there. That is the main part for me, that I love football no matter what. I'm glad that we are able to see a little bit of footy. But there's just something not quite right. And I think, if anything, this highlights how important fans are to the game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But under these unprecedented times, uncharted water, we've got to make change. And Braith, I want to ask you both this, because rugby league in particular, probably not as insulated financially as AFL. And we'll take this AFL vision off and bring it back up when we speak to Nick. But Braith, it's vital, and we had Clint Newton on the Business of Sport last night, that rugby league charges forward because clubs are on the brink. Many clubs are on the financial brink.
Yeah, Tim, you're spot on. It really is survival mode for us at the moment. The finances for us in the rugby league world, we're in some trouble. Volandis and Greenberg spoke about that last week at the press conference, and that is why we do continue to power on. All the clubs will struggle to survive if the game shuts down. This is why the players have really jumped on board. You spoke about Clint Newton and the RLPA and their commitment to the game, because they do realise that if we don't continue to play at the moment, we don't get the TV rights and the money to the NRL, then the game may not continue to go on. The players won't get paid. So it's a very scary time for the game of rugby league. It's scary for the players, and that's why they're making such a big effort at the moment. Kudos to the Warriors, who are staying in the country just to keep our game alive and just to keep on playing, not seeing their family and friends. And even the talk, Tim, of isolation and isolating players and their families and taking them all to one spot, as much has been said about maybe possibly taking the whole competition to Queensland. So it's going to be huge if they can continue to do this. Reality is it's going to be extremely difficult. But I do love the fight that the rugby league community and their leaders are showing at the moment, and the game just continues to roll on. But it's going to become very challenging in the next few months.
No doubt it will be challenging, but I think as the new world emerges, and change is a constant, Nick, organisations will be able to adapt. They'll be able to see what's happening a little bit clearer. AFL, there's been plenty of criticism, hasn't there? And I say that the game's insulated, but it still also needs to continue, if it possibly can, for as long as it can, not only for the game but for the fans. Some people absolutely live by what their football team does.
Absolutely, and this is people's release. They go to their work every day, the 9 to 5 sort of traditional roles, whatever it may be, and then this is their release, and football plays a huge part as NRL does in the northern states as well. So this is a little bit of normality just for people just to say, okay, the world's going crazy, we're a part of it, we're adjusting with everything that is constantly moving every hour or so. It just feels like there's a new update on what is going on in the world and how it affects us. But the beauty of football is it takes you out of that world, and I often put myself back in that position of football. And I was fortunate enough to play a lot of footy. For those 2 hours of the weekend, nothing else crossed my mind but playing football. Whatever was going on in my private life, whatever else was going on, wherever it may have been, for that 2 hours, it was just as simple as, hey, let's go try and find the football and win this game. And I think that the fans embrace that as much as the players do. So I understand the controversy or the differing of opinions regarding whether the AFL should continue or not. But I think people would be happy after 2 nights of footy. They go, okay, this feels a little bit more normal to me, and I'm actually taking myself out of the real world for a moment, actually enjoying football for 2 hours. So I think it plays a really important part in people's lives right here, right now.
And with Fox Footy and Fox League, you can get the best seat in the house. Braith, I was sitting there with my son who is footy mad, watching all the codes, and he goes, Dad, one good thing is they're not booing. And no one can boo. But it is that opportunity to sit down and, as Nick says, get the release, because, you know, I think everyone feels that the whole world is wobbling at the moment.
Yeah, without doubt. I think, you know, with emergency or crisis, I don't think we need a penny, Timmy. You've got to handle every situation on its own merits, and that's what the Rugby League and the AFL are doing at the moment. You've got to make composed and controlled decisions, and I think they are doing that. They've got the experts involved, and as you guys have mentioned, it's a release. It's something that everyone really wants at the moment. There is no sport pretty much being played anywhere around the world, so at least we've got the AFL and the Rugby League on the weekends to go home to and watch and enjoy and sit with the family. A lot of people are in isolation. A lot of people are struggling at the moment, so it certainly is a great release, and it's good for us to keep on working as well, which has been some fun too, and get out to the games, even though there's no crowds.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now, the Olympic Games, gentlemen, the biggest show in town, the worldwide sporting celebration, meant to be in Tokyo in July and August. Obviously, the organisers, the IOC and those in Japan are desperate, absolutely desperate for this to go ahead. But everyone else looking on thinks, how can it possibly go ahead? Nick, look, you might be able to go without fans, but if you don't have athletes...
Yeah. It makes it difficult, doesn't it? That's the next level. I'm okay, and my general understanding and the way that the AFL have handled it, and Braith would be better equipped to speak on the NRL, I'm okay if they feel like they need to give themselves time. I think the biggest issue at the moment has been miscommunication or lack of communication. So clearly we understand the importance of the Olympics, and for particular athletes that have been training 4 years and all the complexity that comes with that. But as long as the people in charge communicate to the punters in whatever country it may be, as long as it's clear, I think we can all accept, and we're all mature enough to understand that, OK, we're going to take some time. We may have to postpone the announcement, whether it goes ahead or if it doesn't. But as long as they take us along with that conversation, I think I can sit here and understand that. If they were to say yes or no right here, right now, then that's, you know, at least we know. But I'm OK if they feel like they need more time as it plays out. And, I mean, AFL players I'm least worried about in regards to adjusting to what's going on in the world. Olympic athletes is another level. If you've trained your whole life or you've waited 4 years for this opportunity, it just puts a different spin on it. So I'm going to sit here like most people just to wait and be interested in how it all plays out, but I would be perfectly comfortable if they don't make an official announcement until a later date.
Yeah, I think it's a tough decision for these guys to make. I mean, they've spent billions of dollars on this Olympics that's coming up. But like Nick just spoke about, as an athlete, to try and prepare to the best of your ability to perform at an optimum on the biggest stage of all, under so much pressure and so much interruption, it would be nearly impossible to get the best out of yourself as an individual. So it's going to be very hard for these guys to put the Olympics forward and to go ahead with it. But there's so much money at stake here that it's a big decision, and I wouldn't want to be making it.
Yeah, well, if you look at Olympic Games over the last 120 years, no Olympic Games, obviously, during the Second World War, Moscow, LA, there's been a lot of political and other disruptions, but this is unprecedented. This is very different.
It is.
Now, gentlemen, you're both golfers. Every cloud has a silver lining. Are you doing a little bit of isolating on the golf course?
Timmy, you know I love my golf. I've got withdrawals. I've got withdrawals from not watching the golf. That's been tough enough as it is. Been really busy with the Fox League stuff at the moment, mate. So it's been hard to get out on the course, but I will be trying my best to get out there in the next few weeks. We've got to have a hit, actually. We're due, Timmy.
No problem. I'm in for that. Nick, yourself?
I'm similar. There's no safer place than being on the golf course. If you can get it past your family and say, well, the football season's a little bit quieter than it has in the past, and you've got to tell the wife and the kids that you're going to be having an extended amount of time on a golf course because it's safe. It is a very safe place to be outside with only 3 other people. Then good luck. I'll let you run that past your own families individually. But, I mean, I love golf.
To me. I'd let you play, Nick. I'd let you play, Dal.
Yeah, I'm happy to try, Braith. We'll try as much as we can, but I mean, I love golf as much as I love football. So even for the Masters to be cancelled, you know, coming up, to be able to sit in your lounge room and just all the history that it has with that, that's a bit sad. But We'll do what we can, and that means we might have to play a little bit more golf.
Oh, and look, I think we touch on an important point here, don't we? Because, and Braith, you mentioned it before, you've got to take it day by day. And with children, and we've all got kids, it's like you've got to make sure that everyone's living and enjoying their life and not getting absolutely clouded, because with that comes mental health problems and everything else.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, you've got to get out and about still. I mean, I know it's hard, and you've got to make sure that you're very careful and take the right precautions, but you got to look after your families, no doubt about that, Tim.
All right, gentlemen, a small tip for the Golden Slipper today. Hungry Heart from the Chris Waller stable.
Okay.
Look, it's a very open Golden Slipper, richest 2-year-old race in the world, but you know, bet with your head, not over it. And we look forward to seeing you on Fox League and Fox Footy real soon.
Thanks for
Good
having
on
us,
you, Tim. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too, boys.
You too.